Greetings, YouTube. Once again, happy Tuesday. Tuesday is one of my favorite days of the week in MCOC because when we have a new champion that's coming into the contest on the Thursday of the same week, Tuesday is normally when the game team sends out their Learn More on the MCOC blog in-game message about the new champion. And so this Tuesday is no different from any other Tuesday with the new champion because we have Omega Red coming into the contest, which also means in a couple of weeks, we should see the last new champion, the very hyped, for very good reasons, Emma Frost, be introduced and probably get her specs on 2 Tuesdays from now. So when we click Read Now, we are taken to the page where we can, of course, see the new champion in all his glory. Now, I am someone who really wants to help out the average player, especially those players out there who just can't pull anyone good. You know who I'm talking about. Somebody who's pulled 3 6-stars and 2 out of 3 have been Juggernaut. Somebody whose 5-star roster mostly consists of Satan herself, Kamala Khan, and Colossus and Groot. You know, that kind of thing. And Colossus is really the feature of today's video and will be the title of this video because after looking over the specs before recording, we finally have a good synergy for Colossus in the same way that we have seen Old Balls Logan get a great buff with Sabretooth. We've seen great synergy bonuses with new champions and even Ant-Man. So Colossus, it is your time to shine because as a reminder, a buff or an improvement to the champion, a strengthening of the champion, if you will, Kabam can do it one of two ways. They can do it the hard way, which is what they're doing with Carnage and Venom, where they literally rework the animations and the special attacks, everything about the champion in a beta test, which is very appreciated by the community, but also very expensive and time-consuming. Or they can do it the cheap and lazy way, which is simply to add a synergy bonus to the champion that requires you to get the new champion in order to activate that team synergy bonus. This is really a brilliant move for Kabam traditionally because it also makes you spend a lot of units and who knows, maybe even cash to try to open that champion. And now that we don't have champions instantly in a featured 5-star crystal like the days of old, you can only get them from those featured Grandmaster crystals or wait several months for them to be in the new featured crystal. So we're going to scroll down and see Omega Red. Now, Omega Red, if you haven't fought him before, he is basically Kabam's counter to Blade, and I'll explain more about that in a second, but this is another one of those we don't want to nerf Blade because we don't want to tick off the entire community, but we're going to create somebody that if you run into them on your path and pull out your Blade, you are going down, especially in Alliance War. So we're going to scroll down. There's a video on Omega Red you can check out from the link. Again, this is in your inbox, your MCOC inbox. It gives you the background. Let's not spend time reading that. Of course, they always still, even with 6-stars now, they give us based on the 4-star rank 5 level 50, which to me is kind of fascinating that they wouldn't give us at least like a 5-star rank 3, but whatever. All stats again, health, attack, max PI, basic abilities, death factor, death field, degeneration, and life steal. Mega Red's mutant psychology renders him immune to the effects of poisons and reduces the damage of bleeds by 90%. Again, this is a Blade counter. Anyone like myself who is used to starting off a fight parrying, this is like Cable 2.0 in terms of a really bad idea to do that. Tentacles hits reduce 100% of damage inflicted by enemy abilities that deal passive damage when they are struck. Keep in mind, this is also another reason why Void is the MVP against this guy, and so many people are bringing in Void to finish off Uncollected this month. While near the opponent, Omega Red inflicts 1 death spore every 0.5 seconds up to a maximum of 10. Once the opponent is out of range, they lose 1 death spore per 0.15 seconds. Death spores are not affected by ability accuracy reduction, which is a pretty big point, especially if you're using somebody like Archangel. Each death spore lowers the opponent's armor rating by 105, reduces their chance to purify debuffs by 10%. Okay, so this is all important information to learn, and then it gives the death field. Remember, death spores nearby opponents are passively degenerating, dealing 43 damage per second for each death spore. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but if you have 10 death spores, right? It goes from 43 damage per second to 430, and you better believe that that will make your health go very quickly, especially if you're using somebody like a Stark Spidey that doesn't have, unlike, say, even Blade, that regeneration ability. Okay. Developer note, Omega Red will brutally punish any champion brave enough to inflict bleed. Blade, cough, cough. What runs through Omega's veins should stay in there. Man, that is a dramatic line if I've ever seen one. Okay, the heavy attack inflicts a degeneration debuff for 7 seconds. Again, if you get this guy, you're going to want to spam the heavies as well. That is a lethal combination when you combine his natural ability with his heavy attack. Okay, so the degeneration debuff does not stack and will need to expire before the next can be applied, but careful timing will allow a player to keep the death spores locked on the opponent at all times, which is pretty amazing. You just can't back away too much from the opponent. Got to be aggressive with this guy. Okay, so special 2, flooding the air around him will deadly spores. Mega Red makes any proximity problematic. Emits the death field for 10 seconds. Okay, I'm going to scroll down because honestly you can read most of this on your own to the point of this video and really the reason why I wanted to make this video in the first place. Because Colossus, someone who has needed a synergy bonus desperately as anybody at the top 5 of my weakest champion list, gets this plus 20% attack rating for each armor up buff, and well-timed blocks, aka parries, grant an armor buff max 1 stack. So I don't know how this is going to play out, but let's say you've got a 5-star Awakened Colossus, and a lot of you watching this probably do, not by choice. You will see a tremendous amount of attack boost from this synergy buff. And plus 20% is huge. It simply could be the difference between, I don't know, ending a fight in a minute and ending a fight in 2 minutes. But that doesn't stop there because we also have some much more OP champions that get synergy bonuses. We see Sabretooth, 30% chance basic claw hits inflict bleed. So I kept complaining that Sabretooth, when released, didn't make the opponent bleed like Black Panther and Wolverine and X-23, and not that Kabam watches my videos or heard my pleas, but they're like, all right, well, that makes sense. So we'll actually make Sabretooth more OP and increase that basic claw to inflict bleed. And 30% chance, again, that's a pretty decent chance. I wouldn't be surprised if you had Sabretooth and you paired him with Omega Red, how much better you would see those bleed stacks. And Sabretooth is already OP, especially with that Killmonger and Void synergy. Speaking of Void, let's scroll down and see that we've got Red Hulk and we've got Mephisto, and boom, Void. Intimidating Presence debuffs deal 10% more damage. Now, 10%, of course, is not as much as 20 or 30% is what we've talked about. But let's say you're one of those rare people who hit the lottery not once but twice as a 6-star, and you have a 6-star Void. A 10% increase in damage for the Intimidating Presence is going to be pretty darn significant to your overall damage total. So Void users, and there are a lot of you out there, are going to want to think about going for Omega Red as well. Okay, recommended masteries. A lot of suicide masteries are recommended. Recovery is a mastery I would recommend anybody use. And then strengths, anti-bleed. Again, Omega Red will excel against any champion foolish enough to inflict a bleed debuff on him. Blade, cough, cough. Death spores cannot be affected by enemy abilities. Anti-purify. So weaknesses, robots. So we know who these robots can be. It's the same ones that most likely shouldn't be affected by Emma Frost, but somehow are. So this concludes our page reading of this champion. Colossus finally gets a fantastic synergy buff, and then great champions like Void and Sabretooth get even more powerful. So if you really care about Void and Sabretooth, or if you're just looking for an excuse to actually use your Colossus, this would be the champion to go after. And as I said at the beginning of the video, it's very limited now just how you can get a new champion. There's really only 2 ways to get the new champion: to whale out, if you will, to throw all your units at the exceptionally low RNG rate of a Grandmaster featured crystal, especially if you're targeting that 5-star. Or just have a tremendous amount of patience, save up your shards, especially your 5 and your 6-star shards, and try to land that 4.2% drop rate for that champion once they hit the featured 5 and 6-star crystals. It is just such a revolutionary difference between how it used to be when the champion would have their own featured 5-star crystal that would have about a 20 to 25% drop rate. Now, Kabam did a very smart thing marketing-wise, and that's forcing you to spend a crazy amount of units, on average $10 worth of units per 300-unit crystal, just for a less than 1% chance at that 5-star that you could have easily gotten had you saved up 100 to 150,000 5-star shards before, like you would with Blade or Medusa, etc. So Kabam has gotten very smart with these champions, and I suspect in September a lot of people are going to be spending their units and their cash trying to get Omega Red and Emma Frost, 2 champs that could be a difference in Alliance War, especially in the Platinum and Master brackets, between winning and losing in those super ultra competitive and draining Alliance War seasons. So that's my thoughts on Omega Red. You Colossus owners finally have a reason to not want to drink bleach, and you Void and Sabretooth owners especially just have another reason to put a great champion on your roster. Have a great one, YouTube. Thanks for watching.